MouseandJoypad.com bring you another original. It's fucking great.
Horror is a difficult genre to master. Hell, it's a difficult genre to do even halfway well. There aren't many great horror games that have been released over the last few years, and no, I do not count Five Nights at Freddy's as a good horror game. There have been some exemplary titles, but most of the time all we can hope for is something that will give us the odd jump scare. Creative Assembly proved that the horror genre is still alive and well with Alien Isolation, a game that gave me the closest psychological disorder to PTSD that is possible to get from a video game. As I got a brief hands-on with Syndrome, the new title from the deceptively cheerily logoed Camel 101, I have to admit that I got that old feeling of being watched, hunted and completely at the will of events that are out of my control. The brief section of gameplay that I got access to is just a snippet of what I think we can expect from the full release. The gameplay began with my character waking up from cryosleep to a seemingly empty spaceship. The gameplay saw me activating some of the ship's systems with no real idea of what was going on. Most of my roaming aboard the sphincter tightening ship seemed fairly uneventful, until it wasn't. Syndrome is going back to the theory of horror where you're responsible for your failings, but any victory is simply a brief reprieve. Codes to open doors aren't saved anywhere, so when you come to a keypad, you'll have to type the number in. The gameplay doesn't stop when you interact with things in the world. I can just imagine trying to summon up the dexterity to type in an access code as something terrifying comes my way. There are a few aspects that I really want to talk about. First of all, this was a preview build, and anything in the game may well change. But even with an unfinished product, I was astounded by the art design. I don't have a powerful rig, so I did have some choppy moments of frame rate drop and the odd crash, but that's got no bearing on the game that seems to be moulding itself around some very primal fears. The art design is fantastic, with environments that look very similar to Alien. Exposed pipework and random debris from the goings-on are looking to build a story. Some of the corridors are wide expanses, but the feeling of claustrophobia never quite left me in the couple of hours that I played the game. In a perverse way, open air has often exacerbated my already racing pulse. This comes down to some of the best lighting effects that I've seen in a first-person game. Drifting smoke and steam seem to create backdrops and blocks in the play area that I could feel wraiths moving around me, just out of sight. Speckles of dust on the point of view camera adds a lot of weight to what is already a very brooding and sinister environment. I really can't praise the lighting effects enough, and I don't mean for a preview. I judge it by the merits of how awesome it is. The sound design is just as good. Walking through the unsettling and still environment will make you look over your shoulder. In my case, it was in search of my stuffed penguin that I use for comfort in such situations. Echoing footsteps started to become a constant companion when out of nowhere the clatter of something falling behind me sent me spinning around searching for a threat. And most of the time, there was no threat there, but the anxiety never diminished. Surviving crew members are paranoid and they will radio you telling you not to trust the other groups, all the while assuring you that they are being honest. I'm not sure how this will tie into the end product, but it will certainly be interesting to find out. I hope that there will be some good choice-based gameplay that will either gratify your decision to trust a certain person or make you curse your lack of paranoia. It will be interesting to see how deeply this will factor into the game. In the preview section that I got to play, there was a fair amount of backtracking, partly because I missed out on obvious vents that I needed to crawl through, or I was simply getting caught in the atmosphere and took the path of least resistance, or dismembered body parts, but I suppose that amounts to the same thing. Repetition is the nemesis of horror. Repetition breeds familiarity, and familiarity beckons complacency. There are ways to counter this downward spiral of adrenaline-sapping tedium. PT used the familiarity of the environment in a way that was almost grotesque by deviating from the norm. If Syndrome can pull off a similar trick, then it may not be an issue at all. I just hope that Camel 101 are able to make the backtracking process less monotonous and instead make it work for the unsettlingly scary game that they're in the midst of spawning. Syndrome is VR compatible, although I didn't get the chance to witness the VR in action, partly because I didn't have the VR equipment to hand, and partly because I think it may have genuinely killed me. I can't imagine a more terrifying concept than placing a VR headset over my eyes with Syndrome running. If Camel 101 pull it off, I can see the cult of VR having a new and unique king of horror to gaze upon. Syndrome still has a month of development time, and I hope that Camel 101 keep the impressive pace that they've set in creating what could be one of the truly impeccable horror titles to join the ranks of the greats. Syndrome is due out on Xbox One, PlayStation 4 and PC. For more Syndrome news, make sure you check back regularly, like, comment and subscribe.